Hey everybody, Miss Miratello here. So I wanted to review some triangle terms with you guys and then also maybe show you some new terms that you don't know that have to do with right triangles. I want to do this for you guys just because all these terms are going to be pretty important if you're going to learn the Pythagorean theorem, which is an 8th grade standard. So I want to show you guys this so that you'll be ready to learn the Pythagorean theorem. So with triangles, there's different ways that you can use vocab to classify them. One of the ways is going to be by how long the sides are. So with these three pictures, the first one doesn't have any congruency markings on there, so we can assume that the three sides are going to be different lengths. The second one has two of these just that are marked with one tick, so we can assume that those two sides are congruent, which would mean that they are the same length, so that triangle has two sides that are the same length. And then the last one, each side has two tick marks on it, so then we should assume that each of the three sides are all the same length. So with those, the first one is called scalene. So again, that means that the three sides are all different lengths. Second one has two sides that are congruent, that's isosceles. And then the third one would be equilateral. The three sides are all the same length. Notice that it kind of has that equal in the word equilateral. So a lot of people remember that. All three sides are the same, equal. If you want to classify your triangles by angles, there's vocab for that too. The first one, you might notice that each of the angles is less than 90 degrees, like they're small. We call that an acute triangle, like they're cute little angles. Each of the three angles is less than 90 degrees. The second triangle that we have has one angle that's 100 degrees, so it's like a bigger angle. It just has to have one that's bigger than 90, and we call that an obtuse triangle. It's okay that the other two are smaller. And then the last one has a 90-degree angle in it. Any triangle that has a 90-degree or right angle in it is called a right triangle. So remember that 90 degrees makes a right angle, so we call it a right triangle if it has a right angle in it. You might also notice in the first two, 70 and 70 adds up to be 140, plus the other 40 is 180 degrees. And then in the second one, we had 100, and then 30 and 50. 30 and 50 adds up to 80, plus 100 is 180. And we don't see the other markings in here, but what I hope you're kind of gathering or remembering is that the three angles inside of any triangle should add up to be 180 degrees. So that's a nice little thing to remember too. The right angle is going to be the one that's really important for Pythagorean theorem when we do start learning it. It only works on the Pythagorean theorem, it only works on right triangles. So I wanted to look a little bit more at this one. And I just wanted to show you guys, so like the right triangle, you might notice it can look different. So like these are almost the exact same. But if you rotate it, sometimes people don't realize it has a right angle in it. So it is kind of like showing that even if it looks like this, like it still can be a right triangle, just kind of rotated around. So I like showing that just because that can throw some people off, that it looks different if it's rotated, but it's still the same. And then we have some vocab that goes with the right triangle. And this is a vocab that becomes really, really important when we do Pythagorean theorem. One of the vocab words that we're going to talk about is called the leg. And every right triangle has two legs. I always remember that on a right triangle, the right angle kind of reminds me of like an L shape, kind of like if you had like your index finger and your thumb together, it always kind of looks like an L shape. And the two sides that form the L shape are called the legs. It's got two legs, just like people have two legs. Every right triangle has two legs. And again, they form the L shape, or some people will say like they form the right angle. And then again, when we mentioned like how when you rotate the right triangles, it makes them look a little bit different. So like all of these are right triangles. But then if you find where the L shape is, or if you look at like where the right triangle or the right angle is, that's how you figure out which two sides are the legs. So notice once you find like where the L shape is or the right angle is, that's the two sides that are the legs. And then our other important vocab word that we have is called the hypotenuse. So every right triangle, we said before, it has two legs, and then every right triangle also has a hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is different than the legs. And in fact, if you've already labeled the legs, then the hypotenuse is just the other side. Cool facts about the hypotenuse, it is always going to be the longest side on a right triangle, and it's always across from the right angle. So you might notice like here's a right angle, it's right across. Here's a right angle, it's kind of like across. I think the easiest way to find it though is first to determine which two sides are the legs. Again, they're the ones that make the L, and then the hypotenuse is just the other one. And again, we mentioned that these vocab words would be really important. We'll have a separate video about the Pythagorean theorem, but those sides are so important to know because eventually when we need to look at like the side lengths, we have this theorem that says that in any right triangle, the leg squared plus the length of the other leg squared will be equal to the length of the hypotenuse squared. So we'll use that theorem later on, but again, if you don't know the vocab, then it would be hard for you to be able to use the equation. So hopefully that was helpful. Thanks for watching.